I'm Paul Zigo. This is Cinema for Cynics. My executive producer, Chauncey Dubone's here with me. 1993's Jurassic Park changed what people expected from movies. It's that simple. It set a special effects bar that was unmatched at the time and still blows away many modern movies 23 years later. It really is hard to overstate what a cultural phenomenon Jurassic Park was at the time of its release. Once the first trailers dropped, people bolted to buy the book, which was already wildly popular. At 12, I owned a copy and I read it till it literally fell apart. When the film finally released on June 11th, 1993, everyone I knew saw it, and I mean everyone. Many of them, myself included, went back multiple times. Hell, I remember my grandma, who didn't even go to the movies, calling me to talk about it. All I wanted for Christmas in '93 was one of those big, officially licensed T-Rex action figures. My mom put it on layaway at Kmart and I got my wish. There are now 4 Jurassic Park movies, with a 5th on the way, and judging from the numbers, 2015's Jurassic World made over $1.5 billion at the global box office. It isn't slowing down. So why do I feel such a sense of dread tackling the franchise? Well, let's dig in, see what we can find out. What the fuck happened to Jurassic Park? Jurassic Park, 1993. The franchise starts out with 2 field scientists at their dig site where they're excavating dinosaur fossils. Dr. Grant and Dr. Sattler are strapped for cash, worried that they don't have the money to keep the dig going despite its success. We find out that Dr. Grant has a particular interest in velociraptors, a breed of dinosaurs that nobody really knew about until this film made them a phenomenon. Anyway, their mysterious, rich benefactor John Hammond shows up, and he offers to fund their dig for a further 3 years if they're willing to come and give their opinion on a wildlife preserve he's building on an island off of Costa Rica. They're flown to Isla Nublar, and we're treated to composer John Williams' absolutely brilliant theme. I still find myself humming it out of the blue from time to time. Bum 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 bum. I mean, it just paints. Thanks, TJ. I got him started, and now he can't stop. No, the music just, it really does. It paints the scene of a really grand adventure without showing us a single dinosaur. I mean, when you hear a theme like that, you know you're in for something special. In the helicopter on the way to the island, we're introduced to mathematician Ian Malcolm, a specialist in chaos theory. You can tell from the get-go that not only is he our comic relief, he's also the most interesting character that we're going to get. Jeff Goldblum just kind of runs away with the hero role in this movie, despite the movie's attempt to give Dr. Grant that position. In a movie that I consider to be reasonably well cast, he floats right to the top, easily and quickly. Once it's revealed that there are dinosaurs on the island, we're treated to this burst of exposition explaining how that was accomplished. Trace dinosaur DNA was taken from mosquitoes, fossilized in amber, and the incomplete sections of the genetic code was filled in with frog DNA? Okay, alright, I can accept that, but the movie raises other questions. Dr. Ellie Sattler discovers these long extinct plants on the island as well. How are those patched together exactly? Taken from the stomachs of fossilized caterpillars, maybe? I mean, you'd think in an operation like this, they'd really be focused entirely on the dinosaurs, but apparently there was a whole team there working on bringing back extinct ferns as well. I guess John Hammond really did spare no expense.
Really spectacular, spared no expense.
Except when it comes to security. Hammond sits down with his guests to discuss things, and Dr. Malcolm foreshadows the future. He exposes the irresponsible hubris in which these animals were all ripped out of extinction. What have you done, science? What have we done? Finally, we're introduced to Hammond's grandchildren, who he also invited to be part of the buffet, I mean the tour. These kids suck. Seriously. Brother and sister Tim and Lex are straight up shoehorned into this plot, and they're really not needed. We have our cast, and there's plenty of them. Whatever. As our guests start the tour, Hammond and his team of security professionals are all visibly nervous. We learn that the system is riddled with bugs, and that the lives of everyone in the park are in the chubby, sweaty, greasy hands of Dennis Nedry, a computer whiz who can apparently network 8 connection machines and debug 2 million lines of code. whatever that means.
You know anybody who can network 8 connection machines and debug 2 million lines of code for what I bid for this job? Because if you can, I'd love to see him try.
Once again, John Hammond spared no expense except for the security and safety of his guests, and he sent his grandchildren out on what is presented as the first actual test of the park's automated tour with a fucking hurricane on the way. I mean, there's hubris and then there's just plain old incompetence. Putting an obvious piece of shit like Nedry in charge of the one thing keeping the Jurassic Zoo from eating its patrons is beyond dumb. I get it though, there needs to be a reason for shit to jump off. We wouldn't have much of a movie if the tour was successful, but juxtaposing the brilliance of bringing back an extinct animal with the utter dumbassery of a half-assed, buggy security system just kind of feels like a lame way to do it. We all know what happens next, so I'll only cover a little bit of it. The dinosaurs escape when Nedry shuts down the security system so he can escape with a bunch of dinosaur embryos to sell them to some other company. There's some brilliant scenes of our cast being chased around the island by the park's many deadly inhabitants, and the special effects here really begin to shine through. The awesome combination of practical and CG effects are all but perfect, even more so when compared to other movies from the 90s. One of the later scenes bothers me to no end. Kids Tim and Lex are running from velociraptors who are loose in the park. We've been told over and over what smart, efficient hunters these raptors are. I mean, it's seriously heaped on us in scene after scene right from the start of the film. They hunt cooperatively, they systematically test the electric fences for weakness, they communicate complex ideas. So why are they so easily evaded and bamboozled by a couple of stupid kids? I mean, seriously, it's almost comical watching these supposedly apex hunters fail to notice 2 panting kids sitting on the floor right beneath them, scrambling around and eventually escaping unharmed. At least one of them should have been eaten. Maybe both. I'm just saying. In the end, most of our primary characters live to escape the island, and Dr. Grant, who hated kids at the start, cradles Tim and Lex in his arms as they ride in a helicopter to safety, even though the kids have given him even more reason to hate kids. I don't revere the original Jurassic Park as much as some people do, but I know a good movie when I see one, and Jurassic Park easily reaches that mark despite my gripes. I was willing to ignore these flaws for the most part because the movie wrapped around them is so cool. It took home 3 Oscars for visual effects, sound, and sound editing, all of which were richly deserved. And that's it. The franchise could have, and in my opinion, should have ended right there, but this is Hollywood. Of course they're going to try and dip their hand into that cookie jar until nothing is left. Believe me, we're down to a couple broken cookies and some crumbs as it is, and there's 3 more of these. Ugh. The Lost World, Jurassic Park, 1997. 4 years after the original, Hollywood figured it was time to dip back into Jurassic Park with The Lost World. The problems in this movie start immediately. We start with this rich family vacationing on an island. A little girl wanders off and gets eaten, I guess, by a swarm of tiny little dinosaurs. I assume that's what happens, but we never get to see it. We find out that they're on an island really near to the site of the original Jurassic Park, and that the island is home to tons of dinosaurs living naturally with no fences and no safety measures. How a fucking family pilots a giant yacht right onto the shore is beyond me. I guess InGen, which is John Hammond's company, doesn't mind the liability of their creations eating people. Nobody's policing the island, despite the fact that it's pretty well known there are fucking dinosaurs on it. John Hammond tries to convince Ian Malcolm, the fucking mathematician from the first film, to go with a small research team to this new island to take photographs of all these dinosaurs who are living there naturally. Okay, why the fuck does he need a mathematician for that? Even if he does need a mathematician for that, why would he even think to ask Dr. Malcolm, who only narrowly escaped a gruesome death in the first park due to Hammond's gross incompetence? At least Malcolm puts up a fight initially. I wouldn't even have taken a meeting with the stupid old bastard after the Jurassic Park debacle. Malcolm eventually learns that an ex-girlfriend of his, Sarah, is already on the island, alone, I guess, waiting for the rest of the research team. This, of course, convinces him to go. Look, I don't hate any of my exes. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to see any of them hurt. But I'll be damned if my fat ass is going with a tiny team of dumbasses to an island filled with rampaging dinosaurs to look after any of them. The idea alone is absurd. I mean, what level of stupidity are we dealing with here in Hammond and his company? You couldn't protect people in a giant futuristic high-security zoo. Why the fuck would you send a photographer, a math nerd, Vince Vaughn, and this paunchy bald guy to an island overrun with dinosaurs? It makes absolutely no sense. You'll soon find out that making sense isn't really what The Lost World is concerned with. As silly as some of the plot developments were in the first film, they don't even hold a candle to The Lost World. Oh, did I mention? One of Dr. Malcolm's kids is on the island too. She literally sneaks onto a vehicle and, I guess, hides in it as it's flown all the way from to Costa Rica from New York, with nobody the wiser. No phone call to Malcolm that his daughter's missing. No checking the vehicles by any authority. Nope, she's just there. Great. I already knew that Hammond was running a shit show, but I had no idea that things were so bad that a 10-year-old girl could accidentally be shipped to Dino Death Island. Once there, the team of people who is honestly totally unprepared in any way to survive rabid bunnies, let alone fucking dinosaurs, meets up with Ian's ex-girlfriend Sarah after literally walking around the island yelling her name.
Sarah! 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 Sarah Harding! How many Sarahs do you think are on this island? Sarah!
Excuse me, but aren't there fucking dinosaurs on this island? You might want to keep your voices down. Whatever, they soon learn that there's another team of people on the island, a mercenary group sent by InGen's board of directors. Now, it seems that the board has wrested control of the company from John Hammond and wants to capture some of the dinosaurs and transport them to San Diego, where they're secretly building a new Jurassic Park. Yet another dumb idea. We couldn't control these beasts on an island in the middle of nowhere, so let's drop them in the middle of a giant population center. These mercenary dudes on the island are even dumber than the hapless group that Hammond sent. They ride around the island, hooting and hollering as they round up dinosaurs. There's this scene where they drive vehicles in the midst of a giant herd of assorted dinosaurs, all of which could utterly destroy any of them by simply swiping its tail. They capture a few specimens, they take them back to their base camp. Now, Malcolm and the rest of the smaller research team decide it's their duty to stop them. And they do so by walking into their camp and releasing all of the captive dinosaurs. I mean, seriously, these mercenary guys are partying in the middle of a dinosaur-infested jungle, and the perimeter that they set up, presumably to keep out dinosaurs, can't even stop Vince Vaughn and Juliette Lewis. The bumbling continues as both groups come under dino assault. The movie, despite trying really hard, never reaches the level of impact in these scenes that was achieved in the first film. It's mostly due to the stupid shit I listed earlier, honestly. These dinosaurs don't even have to escape. They just do what I'd expect dinosaurs to do if a bunch of loud-assed, unprepared humans showed up. They begin eating them, and the humans begin running away. There's no build-up, no suspense, just exactly what's expected, given this film's utterly shitty story. Malcolm and his smaller team are even stupid enough to bring an injured baby T-Rex back to their camp to try and help it, as it screams for help the whole way. I mean, fuck. Am I supposed to feel bad for these people as they die? Am I supposed to identify with this group of dipshits and root for their safety? They're smart enough to know how to perform veterinary medicine on an extinct baby T-Rex, but not smart enough to know that its constant crying might alert the parents? These people deserve everything they get in this movie. In fact, they deserve more, as many of them walk away totally unscathed. The finale to this film doubles down on the dumb. The group of mercenaries manages to subdue and trap an adult T-Rex, and they continue as planned, shipping the beast to San Diego for the new park. Before they even get it off the fucking boat, it escapes. The ineptitude here is beyond astonishing. It also manages somehow to go off the grid. That's right, somehow everyone loses track of a fucking T-Rex in metropolitan San Diego.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, before it's finally found and subdued by a wildlife photographer. Is this movie fucking kidding? Next! Jurassic Park 3, 2001. 7 years later and we're back again. We start with some tourists parasailing around fucking Dinosaur Island. This again? So let me get this straight. After all the shit that went down in part 1 and 2, including a T-Rex rampaging around San Diego, Nobody's policing these islands? Oh, whatever. You know what happens. Something goes wrong and the parasailers, one of which is a teenage boy, crash on the island. Part 3 centers around Dr. Grant from the first film. He's convinced by this pair of rich tourists to act as their guide for a flyover of Isla Sorna, which is the same island from The Lost World. Once again, I don't buy it. There is no way this dude would go near another failed John Hammond experiment. He even says so. Listen.
No force on earth or heaven could get me on that island.
The whole thing makes no sense from the start. Why would these people hire a doctor for an exorbitant sum of money for an airplane flyover the island? I mean, what's he going to do? That speck there is a velociraptor. That bigger oblong speck is a triceratops. No, wait, sorry, that's a tree. In fact, they're all trees because this is a jungle island. My bad. Grant is convinced by the money and he agrees to the flyover. En route to the island, he falls asleep and he has a nightmare that culminates in, get this, a velociraptor calling his name. Look at this shit.
Alan. Alan.
Am I wrong, or has the Jurassic idea pool run dry? We know from the first film that Grant has every reason to fear raptors. I mean, even if you're foreshadowing a big showdown between Grant and the raptors, hint, they are, there had to be better ways. I mean, at this point, why not have the raptors crank call him at home? Hello, this is Dr. Grant speaking. Hey, who is this? Whatever. To nobody's surprise but Grant's, the flyover was meant to be a landing all along. The two tourists aren't rich thrill seekers, they're the parents of the teenaged boy who crashed on the island in the parasailing accident at the beginning. Just like the first movie, the parents and their hired mercenaries step off the plane and begin screaming the kid's name. The mom even has a fucking bullhorn.
Ben!
Amanda, honey, Dr. Grant said that's a bad idea.
What?
Shut the fuck up! There are Oh, fucking forget it. Who cares? Predictably, all the racket summons our new big baddie for the film, the Spinosaurus. Look, guys, I know that this thing was real, and supposedly it was bigger and badder than the T-Rex, but I'm sorry, it's just goofy looking in comparison. They even try and sell this new Dorkosaurus by having it fight and easily kill a T-Rex early in the film. The message is simple. Move over, T-Rex, there's a new badass in town. You see, they're trying to trick you into wanting this new Spinosaurus, but it doesn't work. It sucks. After the group survives the opening carnage, Grant finds out that his employers in this matter aren't even rich. They're just middle-class folks trying to get their kid back. Wait a minute, though. How did they finance all of this? The mercenaries, the guns, the charter plane to a restricted island, Dr. Grant's exorbitant fee? I mean, did they just cut bad checks and hope nobody would cash them before facing certain death? I guess so, and it worked. What a gaggle of dupes. The rest of this movie unfolds pretty predictably. They find the kid, who has somehow survived Dino Death Island for 8 weeks on his own, and they get chased by assorted dinosaurs. Raptors, pterodactyls, and the Spinosuchosaurus are the most prominently featured, and none of the scenes are all that good. At one point, the Spinosaurus eats a satellite phone, which we hear ringing in its belly over and over in this movie to announce that it's nearby. You'd think a giant retarded dinosaur shaking the ground with its footsteps and crashing through the trees would be a better audio cue, but no. It's somehow so sneaky that we have to rely on a ringtone from the depths of its gut. Most everyone escapes in the end. And speaking of the end, let's just take a look at this quick scene together. Wide shot of a dude on the beach calling for Dr. Grant, survivors running towards him, and poof, the entire military appears from thin air. Jesus Christ, what nonsense. Let's just end this shit. Jurassic World, 2015. I guess they realized that the series had really become Jurassic Jungle Island, so the park is back in the latest film. The premise here makes very little sense. The first Jurassic Park ended in hideous failure and a bunch of deaths. Then in the second film, a T-Rex was unleashed on San Diego, once again, bunch of deaths. Then in 3, yet more people are eaten alive by Hammond's experiments. And now there's a huge successful theme park on the side of the first failed one. It becomes clear from the get-go that this movie is basically a retelling of the first. The hubris of science strikes again. We follow Claire, a high-level park executive, and we learn through exposition that people are starting to get Bored with real living dinosaurs? The science team, in an attempt to generate more interest, has begun creating genetic hybrid dinosaurs that are bigger and meaner to draw more crowds. I don't get it. Look, Disneyland has been open and wildly profitable since 1955, based on Space Mountain, Pirates of the Caribbean, and the Matterhorn. I mean, sure, they've added rides here and there, but imagine if they had exclusive rights to real fucking dinosaurs. I don't buy that this park would be in any financial trouble, and I certainly don't buy that anyone involved would be dumb enough to create unstoppable super hybrid dinosaurs. Claire has 2 young nephews coming to the park that she promised to spend time with over their visit, so Tim and Lex are back. The only difference is now Lex is a dude. Great. At the same time her nephews are visiting, Claire is busy with the rollout of the park's newest attraction, the Indominus Rex. Oh boy, I hope they built the bars of its cage out of unobtainium. Whatever. Our final main character is Chris Pratt. He's a velociraptor trainer, I guess. We get to see him training a pack of raptors, followed by an executive of InGen telling him that they hope to turn the trained raptors into a military weapon. Chris Pratt scolds them for their hubris, really driving home that he's the new Dr. Grant in this one. He eventually finds out about the Indominus Rex, too, and warns everyone how dangerous it is, while again, scolding them for their hubris. The new dinosaur escapes, of course, and we find out that it can camouflage itself, control its body temperature, and see heat signatures because its genome was filled in with genes from snakes and cuttlefish. The scientist seems shocked when he finds out that it can basically cloak itself, even though he added the genes that allowed it to do so. A cloaking dinosaur. Fuck me.
It can camouflage!
Whatever. The nephews end up trapped in the park, which goes to shit as the Indominus Rex runs around breaking down fences and walls. Just like in the first movie, Chris, the new Dr. Grant Pratt, goes out to save them as dinosaurs of all kinds menace him. There's a scene where Chris Pratt takes his team of trained raptors out to kill the Indominus, riding alongside of them on a fucking motorcycle. Okay, movie, okay. At the very least, the filmmakers smarten up in the end, and we get to see the good old T-Rex beat the shit out of the Indominus Rex. I mean, even if it doesn't make sense, the Indominus is a vastly superior predator in every conceivable way. It is kind of satisfying to see our old friend come back and banish this stupid Indominus idea once and for all. The kids are safe, Chris Pratt and Claire are safe, and this weird attempt to retell the original story while remaining in a universe that's aware of it is over. What the fuck happened to Jurassic Park? I think it was a victim of its own success. The original idea of Jurassic Park was so good, and the action and effects were so revolutionary that the studio found itself trying to recreate that magic over and over. The truth is, some ideas only work well once, and Jurassic Park is, in my opinion, one of them. I have to concede that moviegoers don't seem to agree with me. All of these films did well, bottoming out with Jurassic Park 3, which turned its $93 million budget into just under $400 million worldwide. With Jurassic World, the series seems to be back in a big way. It did nearly as well as the first, even adjusting for inflation. And there's a Jurassic World sequel in the works. Jurassic World 2, Fallen Kingdom, slated for a release on June 22nd, 2018. While some of the interviews allude to the fact that this won't just be a bunch of dinosaurs chasing people around an island, the teaser trailer release seems to show just that. Here we go again? I guess we'll see. And hey, if you liked this video, use your hideous raptor claws to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. Hit the alert bell so you know when the new shit hits. Thanks.
Dun 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 dun.
Bum ba 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 ba.